Do you want the most amazing retirement possible? Of course you do. Well, if you're like most of our clients, that means travel is in your future. Going to all those places you've heard about, spending time with your children or grandchildren, and doing all those exciting things you've been denying yourself all your working years. If you want the most amazing retirement possible, stick with me as I'll share my top secrets on how to do travel at a discount, particularly right now with a strong dollar. Good morning. I'm David Hollander, and this is Protect Your Assets. For those of you just joining me for the first time, welcome. People around here, they call me the Sandman. You hear the jingle, and that's because I help my listeners sleep well at night by answering their most troubled tax, legal, or financial questions each week. And that's because I've been running a tax, legal, and financial firm for over 30 years. Maybe something comes up. I love to get these. They're fun. Helping you with your situation. Anyways, if you got a situation you want an answer on, tax, legal, or financial, send me an email to questions@pyaradio.com. questions@pyaradio.com. So today we're going to talk about something almost every client of ours at the Liberty Group loves, including myself, and that's travel. I've been to every continent on this lovely earth and visited over 85 countries and counting. So I've got lots to share with you. I know. On this show, we normally talk about taxes, retirement, investing, estate planning, all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. All of that planning has one purpose. It's to give you the most amazing retirement possible. And for many people, that just means traveling. So keep it right here because we're sharing 10 thrifty travel tips for retirees. Hey, when you save money, that means you can travel more. So if you love to travel, then you're going to love today's show. Now, let's get started. Well, we had quite a massive rotation this past week from all the tech and growth to value and small caps, which should really confirm to anybody who invests that a disciplined diversification strategy is simply a key to one's long-term success when you try to invest in markets that can just shift literally on a dime. And if you're not ready, you get crushed. So this past week, we saw the Dow up a little bit, even with all that drama, 0.7%, closing over 40,288. Now the S&P, quite a wild ride there, closing at 5505, down for the week 2%. NASDAQ, as I mentioned, had some bad days. They're down 3.6% for the week. The international index off 1.5. 10-year Treasury, pretty interesting there. It looked like it was on its way down, came back up a little bit, settled in at 4.24%. And oil off for the week, 4.2%, settling at $78.76 a barrel. So what ended up happening? Well, first of all, we had this violent rotation, I'm going to call it from growth to value. And so small caps started to rally, cyclicals, non-tech related things. And small caps saw more than 10%, get this, 10% in just 6 trading days. Major reason? Well, it's clear the start of a rate cutting cycle. So those people who saw that come in and started to shift positions for rates going lower. That's what's happening in the market, and that's why things are moving right now. And so the beneficiaries of that are companies that benefit from lower interest rates, like small companies, those that are more sensitive to growth. These are the beneficiaries. A side mark, I'm sure you heard about this, the assassination attempt last week also had a favor in terms of just the market now. I'm just talking about market, no politics here. This had to do with a Republican getting in and lower taxes and all the stuff that goes along with that, and the sectors that benefit from that, like in energy, of course, and industrials and cyclicals. That's also what I would call be a minor reason. So there we are. Anyway, a little bit about the market there for clients. If you want to know more about the market and what's going on, we're going to be doing the State of the Union. This is a quarterly address that I do live on a webinar. I take your questions, talk about what we're doing in the market and what's happening. That's going to be this Monday at 5 p.m. If you are a client, please make sure you check your email or call us 866-PROTECT and get signed up for that State of the Union, which will be very educational because there's so much happening. And in fact, 1 week from today will be the start of the Summer Olympics in Paris. It's going to run from July 26th to August 11th. And that's what got me thinking about today's subject is, wouldn't you like to go to Paris? Of course you would. And then we had this whole CrowdStrike software glitch, which punished United Airlines and travelers. And my family got impacted by that. They had to go change airports. Anyway, so since traveling could be in your future involving airplanes, well, what kind of travel tips do I have for you? Well, first, if you're going to be flying, by the way, here we go. We're starting the content now. This is how to save money on your plane. So here we go. Watch for, I'm going to call it airfare sweet spots. What does that mean? Well, when you're planning a trip, hopefully you're doing that at least 6 months out. Now, I usually wait a little bit longer than that, but my wife, she can't stand that. So she wants to do it, a year ahead or 10 months. I'm like, dear, I can't even think out, a week. Anyway, so if you give yourself at least 6 months or longer, know that airlines in the United States will open their schedule about 11 months out from when you will travel. But I recommend that you don't book your ticket at that time. Instead, write down the prices for when you want to go and where you're going to, so when the good deal comes, you can pounce on it. Now, what's the sweet spot? What am I talking about here? For those of you who play tennis, the sweet spot on your racket? I'm talking about the same thing for booking airfares. So sweet spot for booking a plane ticket is usually about, you can write this down, 1 to 3 months for a domestic trip and 2 to 8 months for an international flight. Now, I usually lock in on 2 carriers that have good prices, comfortable seating, leg room, particularly if I'm going international, and direct nonstop flights. That's what I like. And then I keep checking my apps to see if the prices have gotten any better. Check out Going for a site that will alert you if there's a significant drop in the ticket price you're looking for. Next, if you're hearing this right now, you're probably near several different airport options. I know it's tempting to simply book the entire trip with one airline leaving from the airport that's closest to your house, but that may not be your cheapest option. In fact, the cheapest airfares aren't always from large international airports. Airlines sometimes cut prices to a specific destination from smaller international airports in secondary U.S. cities. I'll throw out Oakland and Long Beach, for example. Because the international leg of your trip is typically the most expensive, look for deals from other airports besides the one that you usually use, even if it means flying out of a different city. Then consider the cost of a connecting flight. Your savings could be more than enough to cover the cost of the flight, upgrades, and so forth. So just pay attention to this. Pay attention to an airline's hub cities. And I didn't know this, but this was interesting, where the carriers fly out of. So we all know United's out of San Francisco and Chicago. But did you know this? Where the carriers dominate operations, that can affect your pricing in not a good way. Prices are often higher for a specific carrier's hub city because the airline dominates service there. So it's sort of this juggernaut, if you will, squeezing everything to get out of it. So other airlines, however, and I just saw this recently, sometimes slash prices on popular routes from the competitor's hub to steal business away from them. And I recently discovered this when I booked a flight from San Francisco to Germany. I went to Frankfurt, as some of my friends know, and I was surprised to see that Lufthansa beat United by a couple $1,000. This is my experience, and I got the same level of experience because I had literally flown the same class, both from South America to there and then from here to Germany. And it was, frankly, as good. So saved some money and had a good flight. There you go. Now, embrace your flexible schedule. If you are retired, you're free from the tyranny of the school calendar, the work week. You're now retired and you can fly at off-peak times and days when prices are usually lower. When you do your search, try searching on a Tuesday or a Wednesday when you would fly. Avoid Sundays, avoid Thursday evenings if possible, because that'll just save you money. At the Liberty Group, our focus is tax-efficient retirement planning. We think saving on taxes and retirement planning is fun, but we understand that not everyone, in fact, probably very few, find this fun. Most people would rather be having fun traveling, not having to worry about their retirement or taxes. They'd rather leave that up to us. Well, if that sounds like you, then you're one of our people. Retirement shouldn't be spent worrying. It should be spent enjoying. If you want to see what's out there and what's possible, then do what so many other radio listeners have done. Call us right now, 866-PROTECT. The number again, 866-776-8328 to find out what you're missing. 866-PROTECT. Go on, pick it up. Coming up next on Protect Your Assets, it's time for our popular They Say segment, where we will share ways to leverage the strength of the U.S. dollar and the top countries that I think you should visit right now based on the strength of the dollar. Later in the show, I'll be sharing more thrifty travel tips for retirees, like whether or not you should rent a car when you travel. How do you score an upgrade? And how do you safely meet locals to get a real sense of the culture? So much more to come. Keep it right here. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm David Hollander, also known as the Sandman around here. And you are listening this morning to Protect Your Assets. People call me the Sandman around here. And that's because I help my listeners sleep well at night, answering their most troubled tax, legal, or financial questions each week. And that's because I've been running a tax, legal, and financial firm for over 30 years. Today we're digressing a little bit. We're talking about something almost every one of our clients does at the Liberty Group when they retire, and that's travel. Now it's time for one of our fan favorite parts of the show, our They Say segment, where we debunk common myths, half-truths, and sometimes just bad advice that they say. All right, here's one they say. They say that the U.S. dollar is strong right now, which should be good for travelers. Does that mean as Americans we can travel anywhere and our money goes further? What are some of the best places to visit where the dollar is strong and buys us more? Good questions. I would say this. Look, the dollar index, which I do study daily, it measures dollars against other major advanced economies. Typically 6 of them. And right now, year to date, it's a little up over 3% in comparison. That means that typically you could buy more when you go to other nations. Now, there are some better deals right now because some economies are having higher inflation than others. And there are countries in the world where the U.S. dollar can get you farther than it could right here at home. And in some cases, even better than other countries. And here's why. When your dollar is worth more in different areas than their currency, you get more. So I love the feeling when I'm getting more because you know, this steak costs this at home. This steak here costs this. Whoa, are you kidding? And you can get different hotel rooms and different things for much better value because then you feel like your money's going further and you get more for what you've worked so hard to save. The weaker the local currency, the more affordable it is for you. So what are my top picks right now given this landscape? given that the dollar is strong, given there are places in the world right now that are suffering pretty decent inflation. Number one, and I've been there recently, so I can still talk about this, is Argentina. Argentina's annual inflation rate recently dropped to a single-digit rate for the first time in 6 months. And while it was more affordable to travel there in 2023, it is still one of my top picks for affordability compared to a number of South American countries. That would you compare those to? I was recently in Argentina, and here's what you need to know if you're going to check this out. Argentina is the most visited country in South America with approximately 7 million tourists per year. Now, Buenos Aires is a massive town. It's called the Capital Federal. That's what they call it. And there's well over 25 million people in that whole zone, if you will. Now, in the city itself, which is different than the whole area, the city of Buenos Aires is different, but there's still a lot of people. It's sort of like a Manhattan, but bigger with high rises and stuff everywhere. They call Buenos Aires the Paris of South America. And the reason they call it that is because a lot of the buildings around the capital city, when you're, Ubering around or what have you, you're going to feel like you're in Paris because the actual structures, the architecture is identical in some cases to many of the really cool French buildings you see when you're in Paris. So you get this feeling that you're in a European city. Now, also, you add to that the Italian influence. There was a lot of immigrants that went to Argentina after World War II, and there's a very strong food culture there. So if you're into food like I am, those of you know I love my food. Food is some of the best that you're going to have anywhere in the world. And you add to that the wine region of Mendoza, the hiking, the biking, the kayaking you can do in Patagonia. It's just hard to beat this place. I mean, it's great. So I recently stayed, and you may want to write this down. The zone that I would recommend in Buenos Aires is called the Recoleta. You heard me right. It's where Evita's buried in the cemetery there. It's called the Recoleta. It is similar, and again, I'm just drawing comparisons. I wouldn't say it's exactly like Beverly Hills, but it's the Beverly Hills of Buenos Aires. You still got to be careful. Don't wear your Rolexes down there. You'll get, it's not smart. Don't do that when you travel. We had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment in a modern high-rise with a doorman. Forget this, $65 a night. You heard me right, $65 a night. For lunches and dinners, you can have a great day. This is for 2 of you traveling together for easily under $200 a day. And I'm talking about full service here. Remember, the weather is the reverse from what we have here in California. So you may want to plan accordingly. If you're looking for cooler temperatures, if you're looking for, sort of that spring or autumn feeling, just do the reverse, right? So maybe you stay here when the times are nice here, and when it gets too hot or too cold for you, you go down there. Just think about that. Right now, $1 gives you about 920 Argentine pesos. Now, when you get down there, there are different exchanges. Some are called the blue market. They also have the black market. You're going to hear about all these when you get down there. And then you exchange your money through these things, and you could get more. So when I was there, I was getting closer to 1,000 Argentine pesos for my dollar, which again went pretty far. Now be careful when you get into exchanging capital, because that's where you could get robbed. Bad things can happen. You are in a different country, so be careful. So I usually recommend that you use your credit card. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. Visa, Amex, what do you prefer? I'll get into that. But you can use your Uber app to get around. So you don't have to take taxis. You can use the Uber app, and it's very reasonable. And I also always recommend, whether you're going really into any country, bring small dollars with you. So I typically go to the bank. I'll withdraw about 100 singles. I'll have a bunch of 5s with me, some 10s, maybe some 20s for some superior service. But I carry that around. I don't carry it all with me, but I carry some of this cash. And when I'm going out, that's how I usually do the tips. And let me explain that. You see, most of the food servers in Buenos Aires are paid a % of the bill when you pay it. You'll see it on there. And so you shouldn't expect to pay the 15 to 20% tip. A lot of Americans do that, and I see them doing it, and I just kind of laugh. So let's say your nice parrilla, that means barbecue, dinner for two with best steak you ever had in your life, biggest steak. It really blows you away. You're like, can I eat all that? And you're like, after you're done, I ate all that with all the sides and everything and salads and a beautiful bottle of Malbec, delicious, under $85. Yes. US, that is. You could give the server a $10 US bill. You just stick it on there after you use your Visa to pay for it. And they're going to be very happy with that. So that's how you do it. Okay. Next, in South America, I would be looking at Chile or Peru right now. And that's what I'm thinking about there. Now, switching continents, Africa, South Africa. I know it's very far from the West Coast, but haven't you always wanted to go on a safari? South Africa is the host to one of the world's most famous safari destinations, the Kruger National Park, and has a thriving safari industry. Some places even offer safari tours for as little as $152 a day. Now, I went there a few years ago with my wife, and I was amazed at how you could ride around in an open Defender. You know what those are, those Range Rover Defenders. No roof on it, doors wide open. We rode right up to a lion eating a warthog right there in front of us, and the lion just kind of looked at us like, okay, well, that thing could have jumped in there and eaten me if it wanted to, but it didn't because it sees this Defender as like an animal or something, and it just doesn't want to attack it. It's crazy. You'll see all the big 7 game running around, the black rhinos, elephants, hippos. They're all there. It was exciting. It was amazing. And it's an experience that you would probably never forget if you've ever wanted to do that. And if you're not into safaris, well, don't worry. South Africa has diving, climbing, hiking, adventures on the Western Cape's Garden Route. World-renowned vineyards, the Stellenbosch, over 200 years old, the Franschhoek, as well as cities like Cape Town and plenty of beaches. Now, just be careful because there are a lot of great whites out there, and I was lucky enough to get a ride with the Air Jaws captain. You watched Shark Week a few weeks ago, and see great white sharks right off Seal Island. And right now, $1 is equivalent to 18.46 ZAR. One way to make sure you're doing the right thing with your money is to make sure it's on the right track. Do you know if your investment strategy right now is on the right track? You can't get a second opinion from the guy who gave you the first one, even if that's you. Get an honest second opinion during your on-track retirement review with our team at the Liberty Group and make sure you're on the right track. Call this number, 866-PROTECT, to get a complimentary 15-minute coaching call. It's easy, it's painless, it's complimentary, and we do all the heavy lifting for you. So if you want to verify that you are on the right track, given all the uncertainty we're entering into right now, call our team right now, 866-PROTECT. We can connect over the phone, Zoom, virtually, whatever you like. Get that opinion. It's important. 866-PROTECT. On today's show, we're sharing our top tips on how to travel. You don't want to miss this next section as I talk about more great deals. So much more coming your way. You're listening to Protect Your Assets. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am David Hollander, also known as the Sandman, and you're listening to Protect Your Assets this morning. People call me the Sandman around here. That's because I help my clients answer the most troubled legal, tax, and financial questions. That's because we've been running a tax, legal, and financial firm for over 30 years. Seen quite a bit of situations. Love to help. So if you have a question, give us a call, 866-PROTECT. Happy to help. Anyway, the financial investing world, I know, is complex, intimidating, so much so you can feel frozen or you end up making a bad mistake. I've seen that several times. The good news is it doesn't have to be that way. You can solve these by getting information. So today we are sharing our top ideas for travel. So a great way to build capital to do this is to use your credit cards to pay for things that will earn you travel credits that you can use to get free flights, hotel rooms, even food. And I love the upgrades. So these cards I've found have done great jobs for me as long as I manage them. What do I mean? Well, wouldn't it be nice if the money you spent on travel generated a return for you? It can, depending on your credit card. Some reward cards let you earn points or miles that can be redeemed to pay for travel expenses every time you swipe your card. Now, I'm talking about my personal experience, so make sure you check the details on this. But I personally like the following cards, and I use these. The Chase Reserve card, the United Club card, and the Merit Bonvoy Amex. Now, I know some of these cards have fees and charges and things, so please go read all about that before you just sign up. These are the ones that I use. And all of these cards offer reward points for the dollars that I spend. You can then redeem these points to pay for a hotel room, an airline ticket, even upgrades. And these cards do not charge you foreign transaction fees, which in some cases with other cards I've seen be as high as 3% when you're spending money abroad. After COVID, I have found that most countries I've traveled to in Europe and South America take Visa. The finer restaurants and hotels that I've stayed in typically take Amex. The Chase card that I was talking about, the Reserve card, has a connection to Hyatt that I recently learned about on their app. So make sure you check out the deals and the upgrades that are available through that app when you start to use those benefits. Another tip I have found with the airlines is if I'm on my United app and my flight is 24 hours away, I've frequently been offered upgrades at fraction of the cost that it would have cost if I bought the ticket straight out when I first bought it. So I'll buy the ticket, maybe coach, and then I'll check in 24 hours and see if there's an upgrade available. And typically I found there is, and I save a lot of money. And my daughter taught me this, and I've already done it several times this year. It's worked out pretty nicely. The next big one is a big money saver. How can you avoid the rental car line, the hotel chain, and meet locals who can save you some big money? Well, don't rent a car. As tempting as it is to hop in the car rental line and peel out with your own set of wheels, that's a big mistake with rental cars currently in short supply and at airports. You could be better off exploring the city on foot or by bike. Many countries have wonderful public transportation systems that are easy to navigate from the airport to where you're going. Many have trains, buses, subways that can take you where you need to go. And as I was talking about earlier, I love to use Uber. When I was recently in Buenos Aires, I typically got rides all around the city for $3. You heard me right. And then when they asked me for the tip, I was like, are you kidding? So, you can take care of these people. It's nice and it's reasonable. It's unbelievable. Now, hotels. With the rise of vacation rental sites like Airbnb and VRBO, you can now easily forego traditional hotels and find wonderful condos, apartments, houses, even just a room to rent. Staying in a rental is usually a lot cheaper than a hotel. The other tip I have is if you plan on staying in a city for at least a month and using that as a home base to jump around to other neighboring cities, reach out to the owner and make a lower offer. For example, I want to stay in Paris. I wouldn't recommend it right now because of the Olympics, but I want to stay in Paris for a month. The nightly rate for the 2-bedroom, 2-bath Airbnb apartment I was looking at in the first arrondissement was $550 a night. Now, I reached out to the owner and said, hey, I'm interested in your apartment for these dates. I'd pay you $5,500 a month for that, U.S. cash. Guess what? He got back to me and we made a deal. Now he's my friend. So this offers them less turnover, less hassle, right? They get to meet you. You take care of their place. You're sort of a longer-term tenant. So you can save some money that way. Quite a bundle, actually. And I recommend, checking out, make sure they have a good coffee machine, make sure they have good utensils so you can cook, because, cooking some meals at home while you're in these foreign cities can save you a lot of money. And then you can get out there and mix it up and drop in cafes and have a lot of fun and soak up the culture, even if you don't speak the language. Use that Google Translator. It helps a lot. If paying less in taxes is something you've thought about in retirement, this is something you want to talk about, call me right now and get a second opinion about what is possible in your retirement. It's easy, it's painless, it's complimentary, and we do all the heavy lifting. Call 866-PROTECT right now. We do have CPAs, we have attorneys and financial advisors who all work together. Complimentary right now. Just to find out what we can do, call 866-PROTECT and talk to me right now. It's time for a break, but when we come back, want to meet new and interesting people? The answers are coming up next. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm David Hollander, also known as the Sandman, and you are listening to Protect Your Assets this morning. People call me the Sandman because I help my listeners sleep well at night by answering their most troubled tax, legal, and financial questions each week, and that's because I've been running a firm that does all that for over 30 years. That reminds me, if you missed any of today's show, and most importantly, the market segment, then go listen to our podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, at PYA Radio. Just look up Protect Your Assets and you can find our podcast. During today's episode, we've been sharing our top tips for traveling in retirement because let's face it, if you want the most amazing retirement possible, for many of our clients, that does involve traveling, whether it's domestically or internationally. We've seen quite a bit over the last 30 years, and I've personally visited over 85 countries, and I've worked with hundreds of retirees who've shared their valuable advice with me. So thank you for that. And I continue to learn and have a great time. So this comes from my client who retired several years ago and moved from Hayward, California to Paris, France. Yeah. He wanted to meet and hang out with locals. He was a dancer who loved to do salsa dancing and get into the scene. So he connected with people through Airbnb first, would rent a room at folks' homes in the areas he was interested in, get to know them, and became really friendly with several of them. And as he explained to me, and as I've learned over my travels, you find locals who are willing and excited to show you their local sites. But how do you meet dependable, trustworthy people? Well, a big part of it is you got to go with your gut, of course. But there's some other things you can do right now, like you can sign up for meetup.com. This is a free service that connects people from all over the world with similar interests. And interests I've found is what connects people together, whether you're into skiing or walking, hiking, you name it, looking at architecture. There's a lot of people out there who like what you do and know a lot, and it's just fun to hang out with them. Another organization out there is Women Welcome Women Worldwide. This group aims to foster friendships between women all over the world and is another way to connect with locals. They are UK-based. They do help you meet folks. This is free, but they do request a donation of about $60 and a $47 annual renewal fee. It's recommended. Anyway, I have met great people on hiking trails, mountain biking, skiing, and the lodges that have really become some of the best friends I've had in my life. And we continue to stay in touch with each other. And it's just wonderful to meet people. So go for it and listen to your gut. Do you know how much you can spend right now each and every month and not run out of money if you live a certain length of time? If you don't know the answer to that question, you can find out. How? Well, you can pick up the phone right now and call me. And we have a team of people who are specialized in this that sit there and work with you to help figure this question out. And then we lay on top of that our tax planning, our tax attorneys, and our estate planning attorneys who look at how that will pass on to your heirs. All these questions could be answered. Okay, anyway, listen. Inhale through your nose right now. Exhale through your mouth. That's it. Now, in your mind, picture a day when you don't have to worry about work anymore. Picture a day when you can walk into the palace at Versailles, not right now during Olympic season, but after. Enjoy a glass of rosé on the Seine. Picture a day when you can relax, travel, and do all the things you've always wanted to do. Well, those days are out there. You can feel better right now by taking action and get your own 15-minute complimentary virtual checkup, if that's easy, with a fiduciary. Pick up the phone now. Call this number. We're standing by. We're here right now. 866-PROTECT. The number to call, 866-776-8328. Again, call us right now. Phil, Lucas, Dylan, they're sitting there ready to talk to you. Give them something to do. 866-PROTECT. Help me help you. 866-PROTECT. I'd like to give a big thanks to the Protect Your Assets team for putting together a great show today. Executive producer, network manager, Kevin Renfer. And of course, all my fabulous producers behind the scenes doing all the heavy lifting. Raph, Phil, Dylan, Lucas. Thanks, guys, because without my team, I'm just another pretty voice on the radio. You have been listening to the Protect Your Assets show. I am David Hollander, the Sandman. Go out and make the rest of your life the best of your life.